What's up, guys? Nico Wrench Capital. Welcome to the stream. We're going to do some live trading here this morning. This is going to be a daily event, so welcome. Glad to have you. Nasdaq, baby, down. It's an ugly morning to start, but we don't mind which way it goes as long as it's moving. So let's take a look here. You know, honestly, guys, most of the time I will trade a little bit pre-market, and then I usually hold off 10 minutes straddling the bell. And then if volatility is high, I will oftentimes wait until, by the way, I'm Central Time. So whenever I talk time from now on, it'll probably be Central. Okay, otherwise, sometimes I think in Eastern. But Central is what I'm going to try to stick to just to keep it consistent. 8:45 is kind of my time that I like to start. But I'm not against trading pre-market. So you never know. We'll catch something when we can. But man, we're dumping off. And now we're kind of going sideways into the bell. So I'm excited. Let's see what we can get here. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Good morning, good morning. PHARAOH Friday, baby. What do you guys think? Okay, so today we're going to be trading. I'm going to be copy trading probably, well, first live futures trading stream. So I'm thinking I'm going to copy trade maybe 6 of my Apex PA accounts, and then we'll toss in a Take Profit Trader Pro account. And so, you know, we'll be trading, what is that, 7? We'll trade 7 funded accounts here today. No evals today. We'll keep it to that. But we'll mix it in. I'll let you guys know, by the way, when something's an eval, when it's a funded pro account. So 7 fully funded accounts here today. And we'll see what we can do. See if we can catch something. Yeah, Keith, thinking sell-off today, brother? Yeah, we might see something. I don't know, man. Looking behind me, I have the daily chart on NQ pulled up behind me. You guys can't see it, unfortunately. But it's, I have a more zoomed out version than the one at the bottom of your screen. It's so ugly. It's so ugly. And, you know, there was a time when I was doing less trading overall and I was just simply investing. And, man, it was so painful to sit and watch the market tank and your money evaporate and have nothing you can do about it. You know, this is something I actually feel really strongly about is, you know, the market, everyone says it averages, you know, 10% a year. Fine. But what about the years that it doesn't? You know, I think a good way to put it is like everybody puts their hard-earned money into companies, I think I tweeted this once, into companies they don't run, are not on the board of, do not have inside info on, and they call that safe. And then they call trading the risky thing. Well, yeah, if you don't have a plan, it's risky. But if you have a plan and you have edge, I would go ahead and argue that the previous is riskier, right? I mean, look at Japan. Guys, look around the world. These markets, they don't always have to go up. Okay, now, I like to think that the US always goes up because number one, baby, but who knows, you know, so I think it's important to do both. Eric, I know you use TOS for your charts, but what broker are you trading with? Right now, we're going to be using NinjaTrader. Lightspeed is great for stocks, but for futures, I'm big on NinjaTrader. At least I haven't had any issues with them. So we're going to be using NinjaTrader. But Thinkorswim has always been the best for charts, in my opinion. That's who I've always rocked with for my charting. But actually, NinjaTrader here, take a look. These are my NinjaTrader charts. I actually like these a lot. Yeah, so I like to go back and forth. Now, like Lightspeed's charts, for example, if any of you guys trade stocks with Lightspeed direct access, they say they're not really direct access, but they're pretty much direct access. Not a big fan of their charts. Good charts are hard to come by. Thinkorswim, big fan of. NinjaTrader, great charts. I just think a lot of people kind of talk shit about NinjaTrader. I like NinjaTrader a lot. I haven't had issues with them. TradingView, by the way, I don't use it. I tried to use it maybe 5 years ago at this point. Maybe 6 years ago, maybe. Probably 5 years ago. And it wasn't as good back then, but TradingView has come a long way. It's a lot better these days from what I understand. Yeah, prop firm path. We'll be getting highlights from the streams edited and put out as videos, not just for the sake of putting out content, but for the sake of, I think, putting out what'll be good, educational, entertaining videos. Yeah, so trading view is good. Yep, Apex, single day pass, 80% off. I think it ends, yeah, the 80% off actually ends tonight. I don't know what it'll go back to. It might go back to 71, or they might pull it and go back to 50. But it's 80% off, single day pass just for today, from what I understand, and that's going to be pulled unless they extend it, which they probably won't, at around midnight tonight. All right, 5 minutes out, 4 minutes out from the opening bell. I'm a little nervous about today. I really hope for the sake of people that we don't get some big sell-off. But I'll trade it, man. I don't care which direction it goes. You know, that's something interesting, you guys, as traders. You ever talk to, like, friends and family during a bear market? Like, a really ugly couple of weeks in the market? And they're like, are you okay? Like, how you doing? It's like, I'm doing great. I'm not, you know, not being an investor. Being a trader is a lot different than only being an investor. Obviously, it sucks to watch the long-term stuff just evaporate money. But I think trading is a great hedge, at least trading with discipline against the investments. Because again, like I said previously, the market historically has gone up. But how much data do we really have that the market goes up 10% a year on average? 100 years, couple hundred years? It's not forever, man. I'm not, you know, and I don't say that to scare anybody, like, that's well within our lifetime, but it's not like we have 15,000 years of data that says it averages 10% a year. At some point, you know, we might have a market, and even in the US, I really hope we don't, but we might have a market where, you know, 8 years later, you still haven't top ticked. It's a lot of life. I think trading's a great hedge. If you have the time, obviously not everybody can trade full time. Not everyone wants to trade full time. It's not for everybody. But if this is your world, man, I think it's a good way to go. 2.5 minutes out. Let's see what kind of volatility we get off the open, man. Again, I really hope this isn't a 4% down day. Hopefully we can get a nice V bounce. I don't care which direction it goes. I prefer up for the sake of people's wallets. Yeah, I'm talking US stock market. Not just economic data in general. Do you guys trade pre-market, or what's considered, I guess, US market pre-market? I find it's definitely a little choppier, but sometimes you can get some clean moves. Like, for example, had you shorted here. This is like a 2-minute chart. Had you shorted this breakdown, or you could have even sold the rollover of this big red, the big red bar closing near the low. You could have sold that with a relatively wide stop, maybe risk that full bar, and you'd be sitting pretty. Sometimes you can get clean moves if volume is high enough in pre-market or US pre-market, but a lot of times it just chops you around. I think scalping is probably more effective pre-market, at least in my experience with futures. All right, about 60 seconds here. Again, I don't like to trade the bell, guys. It's just feels like a lot of. I think I lose my edge right around the bell, so I like to wait at least 5 minutes after the bell. Oftentimes 15, especially if volatility is high. Eric, good work, brother. So again, for those of you guys just tuning in, we're going to be trading six PA accounts with Apex today, copy trading, and then we'll toss in one Take Profit Pro account for good measure. So we'll be trading 7 accounts today. Probably going to keep it a little bit smaller. First stream, you know, doing both things at once is a little different than what I'm used to. So. But long term, what we're going to be doing is we're going to beef up the Apex accounts to 20. We'll take profit to 5. I'm a big fan. Honestly, guys, a lot of people hate on both Apex and take profit. Well, not so much take profit. That's not fair to say. A lot of people hate on Apex. I really like Apex. I don't know. I mean, you play by their rules and they treat you well. Take profit, there's the bell. In my experience so far, take profit, man, is a great prop. They really are a great prop. I like take profit a lot. All right, what do we get here? Volatility-wise, off the open, let's see. Coming right into that 20 EMA on the 2-minute chart. By the way, guys, for context, 2-minute right here, 5-minute over here. This will be every day, okay? And daily is down here. Now, with daily charts, I don't do a whole hell of a lot of trading directly off the daily, but I use it to get context. So I'll look at the last 5 to 10 trading days. And like, for example, if you see the last, 5 trading days, it has felt like, in hindsight, a lot of trend days, but we get, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 trends throughout the day and they switch. But, you look at the daily, it looks like just a lot of range days, right? So you have to trade with that context. Big old bounce through that 20 EMA on the 2-minute. But you look back here, guys, like here, the context, the inertia of the market at that time was some trend days. Okay, so I definitely consider that when deciding on my style for the day. And I think styles, especially when trading one instrument like the Nasdaq, which, there's trading is more nuanced than a lot of people like to think. I think that it should be somewhat robotic, but discretionary is a factor, and there are little things I think that can make you better. If you're trading like what I would call an in-place stock, you're going to be trading different stocks every day, at least for the most part. And the strategy can stay relatively similar, but when you're trading a single instrument like the Nasdaq, I think it's more effective to try to get context of the day. Some days are going to work better for scalping. Other days are going to work better for taking a little bit longer intraday trades, giving them more room. Some days you might do well with 20-point stops on the Nasdaq, 10-point stops. Other days you might do better with, 50, 60-point stops and just sizing down. I don't like to change the dollar risk too much unless you know that you have a lot more edge on a setup, in which case you need to bet bigger, which a lot of people also miss. When you have a lot of edge, you need to bet bigger on your A+ setups, but that requires you to know what your A+ setups are, so... All right, just gonna wait a few more minutes here, and then we're gonna start looking for trades. Volatility, it's not insane here off the open. Actually, a little bit calm. Try to get the context of the day here. What's really helpful is to, like, in a situation like this where you get a big downtrend coming into the open, and then you get a fake out, a big wick, popping back upside up through that 20 EMA, right? We actually rejected off the 20 EMA on the 5-minute, went up through and failed on the 2-minute chart. A big telltale sign, I think, at least for the early morning, is going to be, do we break downside through this wick? Okay, if we give up 19.6, self-fulfilling prophecy-wise, that says a lot about the opinion of people, at least off the open. Okay, that big wick also says a lot. That fail above the 20 EMA. I think this next 12 minutes is going to be really telling here. And then we get context, right? And then we can go from there. But I need to establish context first. Trading immediately off the bell is, well, I've never done well. It's just really whippy. It's trying to find itself. It's trying to find the context of the day, and I think it's tough to trade when you haven't established that yet. All right, what are you guys trading today? Are you guys trading prop or are you guys trading personal accounts? I'm actually really curious. Do most of you guys trade prop? I would think with my recent content, that's probably the case. The futures world is really, really interesting to me. Have I blown any prop accounts yet? You should. Listen, I think, first of all, I'll get back to what I was saying. There's a bell curve that I believe exists in the world of prop. If you're too aggressive, which most people are, they trade way too big because these prop firms give you room to trade way too much size, probably on purpose for revenue generation, right? If you trade too big and too aggressive, you're never going to get payouts, at least consistently. If you trade way too conservatively forever, because you're like, I'm going to keep this account for 15, 20 years, I also think you're not going to make as much money as you could if you push the limit a little bit, aren't afraid to blow an account here or there. And I think the peak of the bell curve of profitability, at least this is my personal opinion, lives somewhere in the middle, like in most things in life, okay? But the futures world is very interesting to me because you guys have known I have been very outspoken. I have not hidden my opinion at all on how much I hate that the PDT rule exists. It's very un-American. It's anti-American dream. It's pure intention, admittedly, by the people who implemented it, is to protect people from themselves, and I very much disagree with that logic. That makes no sense to me. You're basically saying you're too stupid to attempt to create a better life for yourself because you don't have at least $25,000 in disposable income to put into a trading account. I think that's disgusting. All right, we're getting a test here. Let's see if we break this downside bar. That would be very telling. Jeff, do I normally copy trade 6-7 accounts as a best practice, or do I usually copy trade all of them? So I've gone back and forth. Let's say I have, 20 Apex accounts, and let's say I had 5 take profit accounts, for example. If I trust the copier I'm using, I'll trade all 25. Okay, but it's also, I think, probably best practice to split it into like 12 and 13. I actually had a train wreck of a copy trading disaster a week ago today. I'll explain this at some point, but it was a train wreck. And let's just say I was testing a copy trader. I'm not going to name names because they fixed it now, supposedly. It fired to max size within milliseconds. I was trading 1 micro testing this new copier. It fired me to max size. And I was just, thank God, I was not using a personal account as the leader, because I went the rest of the day in shock talking to my wife about this. I was like, if somebody had this happen and they were using a personal account as the leader, because it fired the leader account up to max size. A personal account, unless you have risk parameters in place, doesn't have a max size. If you had $1 million personal account and this fucking copy trader fired you to, what, 1,000? Who knows? You could blow $1 million just on the spread, and then what? So I'm having a hard time trusting a lot of copiers lately. Replicanto, I trust. Okay, but man, when that happens, it's tough to get that trust back. It really is. It was crazy. Yeah, PDT was really an awful idea. I can't believe it. I've tried to. I'm not going to quit, by the way, but I've tried to get attention. Obviously, I need way more reach to actually get attention on the PDT rule, but because nobody gives a shit. No one's thinking about PDT as far as making a change. It just is what it is, and we need to get, I think, enough people in a civilized uproar about it. But listen, in the meantime, futures exist, right? And the futures world is like America. Like, you can do whatever you want. As long as you have the margin, you can trade 10,000 times a day. This is the American dream, this market, and the stock market needs to be the same. Yeah, built-in trade copiers are probably more reliable, but I like Ninja. All right, we are 9.5 minutes into the open, and volatility is actually pretty calm. This range is not crazy at all. So let's see what we can get here in the next 5 or so minutes. Once 8:45 rolls around, we're going to start looking. Yeah, Nasdaq 24.5, that'd be cool. That hour closure, I think, is, I assume it's just to clear orders and everything. It's not really that big of a deal. Okay, now, first day of the stream, I suppose we should talk about that, you know, about 5 minutes out from trade time here. At least start looking. First day of the stream, the latency, which you guys don't give a shit about, but I do. The latency is how long it takes for me to do something for you guys to see it. And there's a trade-off between quality and latency, and I have decided that rather than maxing out quality and streaming in like 4K or some crazy quality, I have streamed in the absolute best quality I can get with a 1 to 3 second delay, which is the quickest YouTube allows. So if you guys agree, I think user experience is a lot more important than a few extra pixels. So that's what we're going with. Let me know if you guys agree with that. I'm curious on your opinion on that. Otherwise, it's going to be like, it can be like a 10, 15 second delay, and I think for trading, that doesn't work. Yeah, okay, good. Good. I thought you guys might think that. And this is more important for you guys to be able to see what's happening as soon as possible. Okay, we are 3.5 minutes out from 45 here. We can't make a decision. Absolutely range bound. So this is really interesting, guys. Here, take a look up top where you guys can see a little better. You get this big bear bar closing near a low, and you wick back. You get a doji. And now we get a reversal bar. If this bull bar closes near the high 15 seconds out, I'm really curious to see what happens. If we end up ranging back after a bull bar closing near its high, then we're talking range day potentially, at least for the first little bit of today. But if you get that rollover, like you guys know a scalp, if we get a bull bar closing near the high, I might buy that rollover on occasion, and you get a break through this wick, then that's very, very telling. And by the way, I think this is not, I want to be clear, this is not like technical analysis voodoo. This is just opinion of market participants. It's all just a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's especially true on like SPY, the Qs, right? The Nasdaq. Yeah, let's see if we do get that V trade setting up, man. If we get a break through that wick, it's going to be an interesting thing to think about. But, you know, I'm looking back at this daily, man, and just, I mean, goodness, we're talking a month ago. We were at over 22K. That's what I mean, man. Like, if you have the time and you love trading, I mean, everybody on the internet is gonna, and this goes back to my opinion on PDT. Everybody on the internet's gonna tell you that you should just buy the S&P. And you know what? Yes, if you don't care about trading, if you think trading's stupid, you don't like it, you don't want to sit in front of a computer for a lot of your life, I don't blame you. Fine, buy the S&P. I think that's a good idea. But the reality is, no one says it definitely has to go up, especially for a big chunk of your life. You know, I think if you love trading, don't let people turn you away from it just because they say you should buy the S&P. Basically what they're saying is that you're too dumb to be a top 1% trader. Not everyone's going to get there, but it's kind of in your hands. All right, a couple minutes out here, and then we can start looking. But when we're in this range, I want to clear something here. I want to clear either this or this to really get a decision going here. We really haven't established a solid range yet. So reversion scalping, limit order scalping is probably a tall order here, at least for me. But we see a breakout with a little bit of follow through, and all of a sudden the day changes a lot. Man, this is the kind of place where people just get chopped. Now you look here. You get this bigger bull bar and then a shrinking bull bar. And sure, we cleared, right? We didn't nearly close close enough near the high. But I want to see growing bull bars with a close on the second or third near the high, ideally clearing this wick. Otherwise, the market opinion hasn't really determined anything yet. So, we'll see what we can get. All right, now's about the time where I'd start looking for trades. So let's start looking, but obviously we can't force anything. We just got to take it as they come. So as far as the stream schedule, guys, it'll start at 8:15 Central Time, 9:15 Eastern, every day. And I'll go, at least for the foreseeable future, the plan is to stream until about, well, for about 2 hours plus to YouTube. And then I'll talk about what happens next in a little while here. But first, we got to get something to put on. I trade live every day starting today. Starting today for at least 2 hours every morning, starting at 8:15 Eastern. I'm sorry, 8:15 Central, 9:15 Eastern. Now, you guys, look at that 20 EMA on the 2-minute, that chart highlighted in blue. Yeah, we're testing that 20 EMA and holding it, but that's the 20 EMA in and of itself is not relevant enough for me to just take a trade off of that and only that. So, and then you look at the 5-minute, and someone might say, "Well, I'm going to short that rejection off the 20." It's like there's no rejection yet, and it's holding on the 2-minute. As many things in your favor as possible, but I think a mistake that a lot of people make is, again, the answer, like anything, is usually somewhere in the middle. Look, trading off of one chart alone, I think, is not the greatest idea. But trying to look at the 1-minute, the 3-minute, the 5-minute, the 15, the hourly, the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, you're going to get paralysis by too many charts. I think the sweet spot to look at is really 2 charts that you like, that are highly relevant to the market. The 5-minute's very relevant, the 2-minute a little bit less relevant, but I like the 2-minute the best here. And then I look at the daily here at the bottom of your screen for context, like I said. The context lately has, in hindsight, it looks like a lot of range days, but just remembering the trading the last 4 days, it's been kind of back and forth trends. I would call them more range-bound trend days. Like a big range with kind of trends back and forth, 2, 3, 4 per day. See if we can get a breakout above that wick. Otherwise, we're within this range, and then we need a little bit more time here to actually establish a real range so I can think about some limit order scalps, but ideally, I'd want to take more of a wider ratio, maybe like a 40-point stop, 40-ish plus point target. Well, 20 to 60, I'll say. Give the trades a little bit more room. Let them take their time a little bit more. That's kind of what I'm thinking more so today. But if we have to limit order scalp, we will. Do what the market tells you to do. Well, there's the break. Let's see if we can close near the high. And then I want to watch a couple more bars. See what we can do. This is the job, man. Listen, guys, honestly, if you've been around for a while, you know that in past years, I've always been very like hardcore trader, man. I don't care, if I'm having fun. I just want to perform well. And that's definitely still part of me. It's there. It's in me. But at this point, if I'm gonna sit and trade and stare at candles every day, at this point in my life, I want to have a good time doing it. So, in the past, I've preached, like, you just got to be hardcore, man. It doesn't matter if you're having a good time, just follow the plan. And yes, you absolutely have to follow the plan. You can't break rules. That's 100% true. But have some fun doing it. Let trading be fun, because you might spend, 2 to 6 hours of your life, maybe 8 a day staring at charts. Do you really want half of your waking existence to be boring? I've come to the conclusion that my answer is absolutely not. So I've made that adjustment, and I want to have some more fun now. But still push. Gotta grow. Yeah, listen, the 15 is good. The 15's a great chart. I'm just not huge on using it. I just prefer the 2, 5, and the daily, but the 15 absolutely is a good choice. Yeah, the 100K challenge is kind of a separate thing. I might trade some of the accounts on stream. I'm not against doing that at all. But this is not like a stream just for that challenge. It's more of a separate thing, but I'm still going to give you guys updates. We have some things to talk about the 100K challenge, actually. All right, there's the break. We've got 56 seconds till this bar closes. Let's see what occurs here. Again, we're getting, I wouldn't call that last bar a doji, but, you know, we got to close below right here at this, this wick, right, and below this previous opening wick. So if we can get it closed near the high of this bar, all of a sudden the day has changed a little bit. This is what I mean by you got to let this thing establish itself. You have to let the opinion come into itself. Because down here, the self-fulfilling prophecy of all the market participants' opinion is just they're fighting, right? Whereas if the bears end up laying down here and the bulls take control, all of a sudden the opinion turns a lot more 55, 60% rather than 49, 51. Which is what we're after. That's where the edge comes from. Decent close. Okay, and a push. Now this is that region, guys. Here, take a look here. You have to be considering that 50% retracement. Okay, now the volume pre-market is going to be lower, right? But you definitely had some longs, okay, that were long up here in this region, got dumped off on, averaged in, right? I've explained this in the past. And when you get to that 50% zone, somewhere between like 30 and 70%, maybe 40, 60%, you're going to get a lot of selling pressure from the bulls like, okay, I can get out of break even. Kind of a lot of degenerates, right? So, and that's not necessarily a degenerate way to trade. A lot of people just trade that way, and it can be effective. Absolutely, you can make a lot of money trading that way if you have certain risk parameters set and you can follow them consistently. But that's, you know, you get some selling pressure in this region, which we're seeing right now. So we'll see how this develops. Pulling back in here for a test of that 20. Again, on the 5-minute, we're still here. Here, we'll actually look at it this way. On the 5-minute, we're still kind of testing that 20, kind of sticky. Whereas on the 2-minute, pulling back in for a test. And by the way, for context, guys, this Ninja Trader chart is a 2-minute chart. I don't know what it's going to be called on TradingView. I don't use TradingView. If anyone can help them out, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. The June contract in the chat. You gotta lay in the shadows while the market gives you something. And then hit it when it gives you something. And accept your fate, right? When the market, listen guys, almost all your money, once the management is like set, all your money is going to be made on the entries. Let it come to you, lay in the bushes like a creep, and when the market gives you a good trade, you put it on, you manage it as you would, maybe a little bit of discretionary decision making here and there, and you accept your fate. If you get stopped out, you get stopped out. If you make money, you make money. And ideally, you just are putting on trades that have a 55, 60% probability, and you make money over time. Okay, it's not about making money on one trade. It's about 1,000 trades, 100 trades, 10,000 trades, a lifetime, right? But yeah, there you go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that for helping them out. Again, 2-minute top right, 5-minute top left, daily on the bottom. For me, this is the best contextual picture. So, I'm going to be trading micros today. Again, first stream, I'm going to keep it kind of small. The way that I prefer to scale is I really don't I don't like to scale contracts too much unless you really get some padding, but honestly, there's problems with getting padding there's, you know, if you end up going on tilt, that's a huge problem if you end up losing $500,000 in padding in Apex accounts or whatever. Obviously, ideally that wouldn't happen, but if it does, that's a big deal. That's a big hit for you and your family. But I prefer to really scale, keep the size relatively small, even if that means trading micros, which I'm not against. It's not like there's no ego thing in trading the mini. No one gives a shit. If you're making a lot of money on micros, no one even knows the difference. So I prefer to just trade the micros until maybe the size calls for a mini. And just scale the accounts, right? The more accounts you have, you can trade small and have a reasonable in-the-middle aggressiveness per account that's not over the top, but also not like ridiculously conservative long-term, because you want to be in somewhere in the peak of that bell curve, right, of profitability, trading prop, which I think is somewhere in the middle of aggressiveness, not too aggressive, not too conservative, right? And you keep the accounts for a considerable amount of time. Every once in a while, you blow through a set because you hit a statistical anomaly where you lose 5 in a row, 8 in a row, 12 in a row, fine. And then you restart, and it's a profitable venture. That's the way that I really look at prop, is the rules are set in such a way where I really think trading that way is probably the best bet for most people. Which, I don't know, makes me sound like a shill for prop, I guess, but I'm not telling you to go gamble 10 minis, that's ridiculous. I think 1 mini is too big for almost every account. The micros is where I like to live for prop. Plenty of money in the micros. There's no ego here. Trading the micros doesn't make you a beginner. It doesn't make you a small trader. No one cares. Okay, so we're getting a grind upside here, but we're still pulling. We're closing near the high of a few bull bars, but we're not getting strong closes. And we're getting a lot of retracement here. So I'm looking to see if this develops more into a channel, an upward channel, which calls for more limit order scalping, or if this turns more into a trend, which then, you know, the stronger the trend, the more it calls for stop limit order scalping, stop entry scalping, which is like buying the high to sell higher. But if you have a semi-aggressive trend within a channel, then I prefer to enter with limit orders on the bid toward the bottom. Okay, let's see what we can get here. It's definitely not the strongest trend in the world. We have semi-cleared here, that 50% retracement, sort of starting to clear it. We're getting through the sellers, you know, and you have additional sellers that are unrelated to that 50% retracement. But you are going to see more selling pressure in this, like here for context, like 40 to 60% zone on the retracement as people hit out at break even. You know, bulls that got stuck pre-market averaging down, they hit out at break even. There's going to be a lot of them. And once that selling pressure clears, it's not uncommon to see the bulls take this higher, but these bars are not decisive enough. So right now, really what I'm thinking is kind of limit order entries with a bullish bias toward the bottom of the channel if we can get it. So I'm kind of thinking on an entry kind of in this region here. Okay, you have that 20 EMA. You have the upward trending channel with a few touch points at this point. Maybe an entry between 7 and 690. Kind of a 40-point ratio here. That's what I'm thinking at least. See if we can get an entry. Nothing yet. You know, that entry would actually, that would be a break of the 20 on the 5, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay. It's just important you understand these things, right? You understand that maybe it's not the most favorable setup on the 5, but it's contextual enough within every other time frame as far as a channel and the, you know, the 20 on the 2. Looking for entry here. Let's see. Come on, man. Let's see if we can get something. Okay, weakish close out of the bears there. I like that, but I need a little bit more of a dip. All right, there we are. Let's see if we can leave that on. Okay. So, you know, really on the 2-minute, that's kind of what we're looking at. That channel plus the 20. Now this could turn into a downside trend break outside of this channel. Fine, then we get stopped. But really, this is a limit order bet on a reversion back upside through that channel. That 40-point profit take is well within the range, by the way, which is good. But management here is easy. Kind of a battle here on the 5-minute right now. The battle of that 20. The bulls are propping it up. Just need to get enough of a prop to push up toward, not to, but toward the high of this this range here. Which really, obviously, what I'm looking at is kind of this here. So just about a 50% push up toward that range would be plenty here for a take profit. Obviously, a break downside out of this range would be bad news for this trade, but that's okay. Bit of a push. Let's see if we can't get, again, 40-point stop, 40-point take profit here. There we go, a bit more. And there we are, we're out. So I'm trading kind of small here. Here, take a look. Trading kind of small. You can see it's a Take Profit Pro, PAs. Keeping it small, first stream. Again, ideally the plan here is to push this to 20 PA Apex accounts for trading on the stream, okay? And then at least 5 Take Profit Pro, well, they max you out at 5. So 5 Take Profit Pro accounts on stream. So ideally we'd be trading 25 on stream. Get a bit of buffer, get a little bit bigger, start posting some real green days here. But that puts us so far, what does that put us at? That puts us, what? 880, maybe 850, 900 bucks profit on the day so far. Let's keep going, see what we can get. What's your guys' bias here today? Are you betting on a dump off or are you getting long? I try not to let too much of other people's bias fill my ears, but I am curious what you guys are. I'll just tune it out after the fact, after I read it. Dump. Fair. Still haven't broken this range here. Especially you can see it on the 2-minute there, right? Yeah, I'm looking at, I mean, until the market tells me otherwise, we gotta stay dumb, right? So I'm thinking, I mean, really range here. But I'm thinking kind of range with a long bias until the market tells me to do something else. This range is kind of expanding. Like, for example, if we look here, I would draw it. You know, trend lines, don't spend too much time on them. Just draw where your eye gets drawn to, because that's where other people are going to draw it. See that kind of expanding, right? So if we see a downside break or an upside push would be kind of a tall order out of a market like today, but a downside break here can change things, and then you could be looking at a test of this downside wick. But until that happens, man, here, I'll leave that on. Until that happens, you got to think trend day. I'm sorry, range day. Range day. You know, actually, look at the 5-minute here. It drew over there as well. It draws across charts, which is actually really nice in Thinkorswim. Lines up there as well. It's just not as pretty as on the 2-minute. Now, again, you can't be so jumpy though, because I think a lot of people, they draw trend lines or they have an algorithm draw their trend lines for them, which is cool. You see a downside break out of this, it doesn't mean you're testing new lows necessarily, right? It's context is very important, and you have to understand that everybody's going to draw things a little bit differently. Everybody's thinking a little bit differently. It's a range. It's never like an exact, unless you're talking like 20K. Even 20K, a break up or down of that is a range, right? Like maybe 20,010, 19,990. It's not like the whole number necessarily, because you see a lot of breaks that fail, get to 20,005 and then revert. So here we go, a test of that downside range. Now I would think about another trade here, but just my intuition, I gotta hold off, because you guys see this upside and then we went sideways here. So somebody could make the argument now, and it's in the bear's favor, that this now exists, because we got 3 touch points. And there you go, that's market intuition. You get a dump off through. Again, not quick to pull the trigger. Gotta take your time, let these trades come to you. I'm not against taking 20 trades in a day. Absolutely not, but as long as they all come to me and I'm not rushing. But, you know, now you have that bearish argument here that didn't exist prior. We have 3 touch points. Someone could say, well, that now exists, so we're gonna need to break downside through there or upside through this really, really condensed now channel. But these are the kind of things that the more you trade, the more you see, and the more often you end up being right about. It's not good enough to take a short trade for me, at least yet. But that intuition is enough to make me hold off on another long. Yeah, how are we doing on news today, by the way? That's a good question. So, it's well, I don't have a browser. Can somebody just drop the news times in the chat? I think that would help us all out. Nail that down. I checked earlier, but now I can't remember. So if we end up getting continuation on this break through the channel, then the channel's broken, right? Which is already kind of broken. But then I'm thinking, okay, maybe in this region here, take a short with 40 points of room at least to the lows. Probably that second to last wick. Yeah, okay, Trump's talking at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Thank you for that. By the way, it's not uncommon. You end up getting a retest, right? You get this dumps here, so I don't know why I deleted that. You get this dump off through here, right? The bears have a new argument. The bears take control. Some of the bulls pull back. They're like, whoa, I don't know about that new trend line. You dump off through here, and then it's really common to get a retest. And that this retest region, it could be good for a little scalp, but it's definitely not like one of my highest probability trades. It's probably good enough to put on in some cases. But this is all just a game of probabilities, and the longer you do this, the longer you look at things, the more accurate you get at determining those. I don't like to have too many of these on my chart, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these. All right, get a downside push. This might turn into something here that we can actually take, as long as we get enough of a decisive candle formation, which is just psychology put into a visual representation, with enough room, which for me right now today, I'm thinking 40-point ratios to that downside test. Because all of a sudden, now you have a bunch of buyers in this region here, right? So if I end up getting short at, 33, it becomes a different bet. It becomes a bet on a breakout for me, rather than just a test. Which is a trade I might put on, it's just a different trade. If that makes sense. Now you have that shrinking bear bar, right? Something I think about. What does that tell you? Well, in the last 4 minutes, 4.5, 5 minutes now, you've had a bearish bias become less strong. Either you had sellers leave or more bulls come in. You get a shrinking bear bar, right? I'm not into that for a short. I want a growing bear bar. I want the bulls giving up and the bears piling in, creating a kind of a window where the probability of the trade is high enough for me to take, maybe 55-60 with a 1-to-1 reward to risk. And it has the potential to get even higher after I enter, which is good because I need it to push me to target, right? I can't enter when probability is starting to teeter on like the highest, which is when people are taking profits. Now this is that region for me. It's kind of like, it's a little no man's land here for the next few minutes because we're kind of back to what happened off the open. Okay, a lot of indecisiveness out of the market. For those of you guys just joining, we're sitting up about 900 bucks right now. Keeping it light so far. First stream here, not going huge, but that's a good morning. Obviously, not going to diminish that. But we're not done, certainly. See what we can get. What's up, Dale? How you doing? So I'm looking at two things here. I'm looking at this high here, and this here, this low. Okay. Anything in there to me right now is sideways, no man's land. Honestly, not even high enough quality for me to take a limit order scalp. By the way, when I say a limit order scalp, I'm talking reversion scalps within a channel. When I say a stop entry, either scalp or swing, I'm talking breakouts. All right. Now, I need to see a break out of this because this range here is so indecisive. We're just seeing back and forth in terms of candles, bear bars breaking out, closing near the low, and then shrinking and reversing. Okay, there's really not a channel formed yet, so I need to see some kind of breakout up or down. I don't care which way. But something here, something's got to give. We got Trump, 45 minutes. Let's just shake things up a little bit. It's tough. It's tough to trade when he's speaking. It's just, it can be really tough. I don't mind trading heading into it. I don't mind trading after it at all. But while he's speaking, it can be tough because you're dealing with one person making on-the-fly statements, and how it's worded, the market can take it a completely separate way. It turns into a lot more 50-50, 49-51, 48-52% probability than it does 55 to 60%, which I'm not into that. I'm into 55 to 60, right? At least when we can get it. So we'll see what happens here. Again, about 44 minutes out from Trump speaking. I'll tell you what, while this chops around, I will be back. Literally, it's not going to be 10 minutes. I will be back in 2 minutes. All right? Count it. Be right back. All right, we are back, and nothing happened. Was that 2 minutes? I think I was pretty quick. Man, you see, this is the kind of range where all I can think is like, I know that a lot of traders are holding off right now. So where's the volume coming from? Well, it's probably coming from a lot of institutions who are buying and selling based on longer term goals, algorithms who are doing something completely different. Not a lot of human traders that can drive you to have an edge, because there's no decision making going on right now, right? There's nothing. So It's like we need a breakout, either up or down. Again, I'm looking here or here. Taking a trade within this, to me, is kind of, it's just a 49.51 kind of deal. Hey, Matt, get that. Let's go. Good work. Which account are you going with? This is the Nasdaq NQ. I'm actually trading MNQ, but I'm watching NQ. All right, let's see if we can get something here. Again, breakout up or down. Don't care which way, I'll trade either way. We gotta see something. Or a channel formation would be fine. But you guys know I like to see at least 3 touch points on one side. In this case, the way that things are looking right now, I would like to see 3 touch points on the bottom for a long limit order scalp. At least 3, and ideally more than 3 candles. Okay. So, Quicksilver is asking, you wait for breakdown for short instead of clipping the top. Well, we haven't seen, okay, first of all, there's 2 answers to this. We haven't seen a test of the top recently in the last few minutes, but also previously over here, being in this uptrend, if I'm scalping aggressively, sure, I'll take a limit order scalp on the top, but being in this obviously long bias, I prefer the bottom, which is the trade that we took. The opposite is obviously true in a downtrend. All right, we got a shrinking bull bar, but a better close near the high. Let's see if we can clear this wick here. And then I really need to see a clear of that wick. And then the whole day changes. Consecutive bull bars closing near their high and growing, ideally. That's a really big deal. It's a really big deal, but within a channel, you still have that test in the way. All right, I want to see kind of a blue sky. I want to see that thing clear. Volume profile, developing value area on futures. Have I ever looked into it? Those high and low levels can be massive support and resistance. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Getting a breakout. Let's see. I want to let this bar close. I'm not a big fan of just buying the break unless I'm looking for a very small scalp. Okay. Now, okay, so volume profile, developing value areas. I just trade price action. That's what I'm best at. If you're best at that, trade that. There's a million ways to do this. Don't overcomplicate it. Find a way that you're good at. Find a way that works with your personality type and your brain. It makes sense to you with the instrument you're trading, in this case, the Nasdaq, and rock with it. I'm not the guy who's going to sit here and say, you have to trade like me. You have to use this indicator. It's all bullshit. There's a million ways to do this. It's just hard. And it's mostly hard because people don't take the time to look at their data. They don't care to have, well, maybe they care to have emotional control, but they are unable to when it counts consistently. You can be, I've seen it a million times, guys. You can be a wonderful trader. See, that close there is a little off the high. I'm going to let this next bar develop here and see if we end up following through on this trend, in which case another trade might be in store. You can be a great trader who's super disciplined for a month straight. But if on day 22, you have no discipline and you let something run against you, I mean, we've all done this, right? You blow up the month and then it doesn't matter. You're still a losing trader. So I think a lot of people are closer than they think. They just have bad days, 1, or 2, they're experiencing death by 1,000 paper cuts, which is just as painful, if not more. Usually that has to do with using, well, going counter trend with too tight of stops, or just using too tight of stops in general, even with the trend. Something that helped me a lot, guys, especially on futures, this is really important to understand. My best estimate as far as probabilities in the first half of every trading day on any bar, you can either buy or sell and at some point later in the day make money. Now, the 10 to 20% will kill you. But that's really important to understand because there's a lot of back and forth in futures, which to me is not what you should take and run with like, okay, so I can just buy and then wait, I'll make money, right? Well, especially if you're trading prop, you have a drawdown issue, which is a huge problem that you can't do that with. But secondly, what does that tell you? It tells you that futures do a lot of testing of the same areas. So using way too tight of stops is a really tall order. Okay, I think you ideally, even with scalping, widen it out a little bit. You know, use a 10, 20-point stop, not a 4-point stop on the Nasdaq. That's crazy. 40-point stops, I'm not against it, right? 60-point stops for a more intraday swing. You could even go 80, 100-point stops if you're trading small enough, which is the key. Yeah, listen, going counter trend is, especially with too tight of stops, is a recipe for death by 1,000 paper cuts, and we don't want that. And with prop, guys, again, for those of you guys just joining in, there's no ego here. Anybody who's good is never going to judge you for trading the micros. Never. There's a lot of money to be made in the micros. Trading a mini doesn't make you the man or the woman. It doesn't. Doesn't matter. A lot of people trade minis and make no money. A lot of people trade micros and make a whole shitload of money. So, no ego, it doesn't matter. Trade whatever is small enough for the account you're using, whether it's personal or prop. Okay, so this breakout did succeed, but it's weak. We're getting a lot of wicks. There are sellers in this region. Now, if we look at the 5-minute, this gives us some more context here. You see this support region? I know some of you guys might not have seen that, right? We're definitely gonna have some sellers in this region. Okay, that's going to be a profit-taking zone, whether it's just limit orders sitting or people watching a 5-minute, because a 5-minute, you have to understand, is more contextual. It's more widely used than a 2-minute. The 5-minute is really, really commonly used, so it's going to have a lot of people watching this, and therefore, a lot of algorithms programmed to look at it, which they're getting even better at doing, visualizing the chart and saying, okay, a lot of humans are going to put orders here. And the algorithms trade big size, right? So it's interesting to think about that. Gotta wait for this thing to develop. When I'm looking at the market, just so you guys kind of, like, I guess, understand what I'm looking at, I'm thinking about it in zones. So, like, this first maybe 10 minutes of market open, to me was a zone of, well, even longer, 15 maybe. This was a zone of no man's land. We were within a range. Back and forth, a lot of failed attempts at breakouts, right? Here, kind of here, right? Shrinking bull bar. But, here, this is even better. Then this channel became a zone. When that broke, we entered a new attempt at a zone, failed. And now this is kind of a new zone, but we haven't developed really anything yet. I'm looking for either breakouts or ranges. Let it come to you. Don't be scared to take 10 trades when the market calls for it, but don't be scared to take 0 for 3 hours if the market doesn't. Over trading, now listen to what I'm about to say. This isn't just a ramble. Over trading only exists if you don't have an edge. If you're counting cards at a blackjack table and you have an edge that you can prove statistically, you should bet as many hands as you possibly can, obviously following all the rules of a card counting strategy. I'm not a card counter. I've never been one. I know how to do it, but I've never actually done it. From what I understand, it's really hard to do today. They're getting smarter. But just an example, you have to bet heavy and bet hard when you have edge. That doesn't mean massive size, by the way. It just means often when you have edge, you should take that edge off the table, right? You should take that little coin, pick it up off the cement. But when you don't be afraid to not put anything on. Why would you put on a negative EV, a negative expected value trade? You wouldn't. All right, seeing if we can get a channel developing here. You could argue we're looking at, well, okay, so now that this is developing here, let's make this argument. Somebody could and will argue, and rightfully so, that this is a big channel, okay? We have 2 touch points to the downside. Not extremely definitive in my opinion. On the downside test, you would have to see a break through the 20 EMA, and also, by the way, on the 5-minute, 20 EMA, pretty commonly used. You're starting to see a downside breakthrough there, which could push a break through that trend line off of only 2 touch points. For me, the probability is a little bit lower than I would prefer, but it's something to think about there. We can definitely think about that as a potential trade. Testing that 20. Actually, this is, yeah, we're testing the 20 on both the 2-minute and the 5-minute here. Look. Getting close. All right, Trump speaking in 28 minutes. Let's see how the market reacts heading into that. It's been volatile lately when he comes on. So, those of you guys just joining, this is how we're sitting so far. One trade, we're up about 900 bucks on the day. Nothing crazy, but seeing if we can get something else. You know, you see these 5 consecutive, like, doji bars, with the exception of maybe that middle bar, but I would still kind of call that a doji. This is just, it's really tough to trade these. If anything, I would trade this with a bullish bias, but all of a sudden you can get a bearish bar, right, that pulls down, closes beneath that 20, and all of a sudden everything changes in 1 2-minute bar. Okay, so that's kind of how I think about this here. Yeah, Keith, man, prop is cool. It's a business, right? It's a business model, and if you can be good, you can have your own business model around their business model, right? They have to make money, which means that traders have to, on average, lose money. Okay, but you don't have to be one of those traders. So develop a business model around their business model if you want to trade prop. I mean, that's my best advice to you. But, you know, no one says, by the way, that you have to trade prop forever. Though, if you trust the copy trader you're using, I don't think, you know, I think it's a good idea to maybe think about you trade a personal account and you trade prop. Maybe at the same time or separately, whatever you want to do. But it's a tool, right? And if you can play by their rules and get over the fact that a lot of people say, oh, they're a scam. It's not a scam, it's a business. So you have to develop your own business model around their business model. Just try to become one of the winners. For them to stay in business, there has to be winners. There also has to be losers, though. But if nobody wins, then no one cares. Waiting for this market to make a decision here, man. This is one of those days. Definitely a range day here so far. A bullish range day, but obviously down on the day. Bullish since the open, we'll say. 0 to 100K a month didn't go anywhere. It did not go anywhere. I told you guys, we're not quitting until that's done. Okay, now that's kind of separate from the stream here, but it still exists. It hasn't just gone off into oblivion. First of all, I prefer, this live is great. Okay, the editing is, I have to do the editing for 0 to 100K, and I can't offload it to an editor because otherwise the videos become less contextual because he's not the one who took the trades. I am. So live, I think, is preferable, at least to me, and I think probably to the viewer too. Maybe not some of you guys, but with the 0 to 100K, I was, so here, I'll explain quickly what happened. I didn't trade in the accounts for a few days after the videos stopped. I came back last week, we're talking, okay? Tuesday, I had about a $400 per account red day. Wednesday, last week, about a $250 per account green day. Thursday last week, about a maybe $450 per account green day. So it was going well last week all in. Friday, I tested a copy trader for a company. And I'm testing the copy trader. I'm trading 1 micro as a test. 1 micro, very small. And I explained this early in the stream, but just for context. I'm testing a copy trader for a company, and it was going very well. My third, maybe fourth trade of the day, the thing went haywire on me. And I've already explained, I'm very grateful I was not trading like a big personal account as the leader. Because the copy trader, I was trading 1 micro, press buy, and it went haywire, triggered 100 buys to max size. Then I flattened the accounts. This all happened within milliseconds, by the way. And I did not change the volume. It was hitting 1 at a time up to 100, and then it stopped me because that was my max size. It then flipped me short and sold 100, well, sold 200 to go short 100. Crazy. I lost the spread. And it blows 5 Apex accounts in, I'm not even joking, I'm not bullshitting. I have emails, I have screenshots to prove all this to you guys. 2 seconds, it blew 5 Apex accounts. And I'm like, all right, well, that's really frustrating. It's a lot of work gone because I'm testing a copy trader for a company. And they fixed it. I'm not going to name names. They fixed the problem now. But that was really, really frustrating. But 0 to 100K is not going anywhere. I'm not, something that stupid's not gonna stop me. Yeah, I mean, you would think I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's not their problem. But it was the copy trader's fault, but I'm not gonna sit around and be like, they have to be responsible, because, I mean, they were my accounts. And I guess maybe I shouldn't have been trading in PA accounts on a copy trader test, but I was trading 1 micro and I didn't even know that this could happen. All of a sudden I'm long 100 micros within a second and a half or some crazy thing. I flatten the position, it sells at the market, loses the spread, and then shorts me 100. Boom, all that work, blown the accounts in 2 seconds because of a stupid copy trader that I was testing. Very frustrating, but that's life, okay? Now Replicanto I actually trust. I have not had these issues with Replicanto. So here we're looking at, again, 2-minute upper right, 5-minute upper left, daily on the bottom here. Testing that 20 EMA on the 2-minute. Oh, by the way, I should clarify. That copy trader issue is not at all why the videos stopped. That was like over a week after the videos stopped going out for 0 to 100K. I'm still going to do recaps for that series, by the way. That was just something that happened like a week after that stopped. They stopped because the editing was brutal. It was brutal because I had to do it, and I have a long day regardless. But this live, man, I'm having fun. I enjoy this a lot. Okay, so we're testing that trend line. Okay, that's a big daily trend since the open. I'm sorry, the trend, that's a big daily range with a trend line. Now, that to me is not enough after that bear bar. You see that closing near its low to get long, because that tells a lot of bears to start selling, that adds selling pressure, okay? Those who aren't looking at the trend line. So that becomes, you know, from a 55 to 60 to an estimation, maybe like a 48-52 probability. I'm not huge on that, so we'll keep watching and see what happens around this trend line. If we break downside through the trend line, all of a sudden, this becomes a very, very different day. We've been waiting for that kind of all day now. Yeah, I have no plans of just quitting the challenge. I mean, it was a really stupid thing that happened. It was kind of frustrating, but honestly, in the moment, I was kind of like, wow. That really just happened. And I talked to Apex through email, who then went and talked to, who was very concerned about this, and then talked to Ninja Trader, Rhythmic. After days and days of back and forth, they determined that they really think it was a copy trader issue. So I reached out to the copy trader developer, who then, you know, said they had had the same thing happen to 3 or 4 other people, and they now had fixed it. So again, I'm not putting anyone on blast. They don't deserve that. They did fix the problem. It's just, it's like a trust thing. It's kind of tough. You know what I mean? Because, you know, five Apex accounts, that's like, what is that? That's almost $1,000. It's kind of frustrating. Plus, you know, whatever you had in the account. Yeah, you know, copy traders, they're a great tool. They definitely help, but not when they don't work right. And especially when it's not your fault. A lot of times copy trader issues end up being user error. I've definitely had that happen. This was not user error. This was a straight up glitch. This was insane. Okay, we're breaking downside through that trend line. Let's see if we can get a close near the low of this bear bar, and then all of a sudden this day has changed. At least a little bit. And the further you go, the higher probability of the day being changed. Okay, there is a possibility here that you just get a reforming of the channel. That definitely is possible, but we're not looking for 98%, you know, probability. We're looking for 55 to 60. Here's that retest of the trend line like we got earlier today. Very, very common for me, unless I'm being really aggressive on an eval or something. You know, not enough for me to take this trade to the short side just on that retest, because we got that big wick downside. Look at that. But, you know, you could take that trade if you're being very aggressive. That's something I might take on an eval with small size. Not betting the house on it or anything, but small size. I might take that for a quick little, maybe 10-point scalp. So now we're getting that retest of the 20. You know, 2 minute. This is one of those zones, you gotta let it come to you, man. Gotta let it come to you, the trade. By the way, guys, ending today, actually, this is only today, well, yesterday and today. This ends at midnight tonight. Apex is 80% off. I don't know what it's gonna go back to when they end, and single day pass, use code BIG. They'll get that deal. It's not 80% off in single day pass. It is nice, and it helps with the business. I mean, you guys know with prop, I think you need to have a business plan where you're like, okay, my goal is this return. I'm willing to spend this much on evals and PA accounts or pro accounts or whatever prop you're using, and I'm looking to get ideally this amount in payouts. You know, I think, again, the bell curve of profitability lives somewhere in the middle. Not being too aggressive, but not being too conservative. Willing to spend a little bit of an amount on accounts. Not hold on to them for 10 years necessarily. Trade relatively aggressively, but not where you're blowing them every 3 days, right? And then have a business plan where you're getting a return on that investment. And you want to track all that, maybe on pen and paper, Google Sheets, whatever. But when they have these sales, it definitely helps get the business plan a little more room. Peter, up 600 on 2 accounts. Good work. Okay, so it looks like here we maybe just be getting a kind of a reforming of this channel. But now you only have the 2 touch points, which is a tough call, at least for me. I really want to see today turn into either a super obvious channel or an undeniable trend. That's really what I'm looking at here today. And I'm not against sitting and waiting. Gotta let it come. But again, for those of you just joining, if the market gives you 5 trades in 20 minutes, I'll take them. This is a good time hanging out with you guys. I haven't streamed in a while. I did a live show years ago, a couple years ago. Well, maybe three years ago almost, maybe more actually. And then I did a few lives maybe 6 months ago. But this is the first of this kind, man. And I'm gonna keep. This is a daily thing. I really enjoy this. I have fun hanging out with you guys. So, by the way, for anyone new, Central Time, these will start daily, every day, 8:15 a.m. Central Time. That's 9:15 a.m. Eastern. And we'll go for at least 2 hours. Probably more like 2:15. So we've got a big intraday. This here is the open, by the way. This is a 2-minute chart. We've got a big intraday range. And right now we're dead in the middle of it, right around that 20 EMA. This is algo institution territory. Which I'm not into. And again, you look at that daily chart, bottom of the screen. Looks like a lot of range days. But you remember the trade in the last 4 or 5 days has been a lot of big ranges with trends in between. Today, we're seeing kind of like a smaller range with smaller trends in between, and it's really tough to get that window where the probability is high enough and the risk isn't too high when it's a smaller trend. Yeah, Peter, yesterday, how did I do yesterday? I had a really good day Wednesday, and then yesterday was a slightly above average day for me, and today is okay so far. I mean, first day on the stream, I'm trading a little bit small, but we're up 880 so far on one trade. But in due time, I want to be posting some good numbers here on the stream. I think it's more fun that way. All right, we're getting a lot of consecutive bull bars here. Like, you especially look at the 2-minute here up top. But you notice anything? A lot of wicks to the upside, not a lot of closing near the high. Yes, we're clearing each bar, but then usually wicking back down and closing the body beneath the wick of the previous bar. This, to me, shows in the last 6 to 8 minutes. Not too bad of a bull trend, very short term, but it's weak. It's a weak bull trend. There's still sellers present. Do you ever trade PM futures? So you said big move today, so I assume you mean pre-market rather than like PM, like nighttime. Yeah, pre-market, I do. I usually perform better after the market opens. But I can definitely make some money pre-market, but it's usually choppier. So I make less pre-market usually. But today's big move, man. Did any of you guys catch that short in pre-market today? I'm actually really curious if any of you guys like shorted that breakdown and caught a big move in pre-market. Sometimes when volume comes in pre-market, it can be a really nice trade. If you're willing to trade a trend pre-market, which I usually end up trading ranges, just scalping ranges pre-market, it's really tough for me to trust trends in pre-market. But that's why if you take a trend trade pre-market and it hits, you can make so much money because people aren't expecting that to come through pre-market. Most people are trading the range pre-market. So when a trend hits pre-market, you're usually early, which means probability is lower because you're early, but potential reward is big. That's the trade-off, potential reward versus probability. It's all just stats, man. Good work, Peter. Keep it up. Keep it up. But what I want to see here is some kind of decisive move here out of the market. We are in here. Actually, this is better. Yeah, there you go. We are in kind of range, middle of the range, no man's land here. Probabilities go down. There's little windows during the day where probabilities creep up to that 55 to 60% at a 1-to-1 reward to risk if that's what you're running. Obviously, it shifts depending on reward to risk. But there's little moments in time where edge is available in the market, assuming good management. Right now is not one of those times, at least not for me. For someone else, this might be their best time. For me, it's not. Again, there's a million ways to do this. You don't have to trade like me. You don't have to trade like so-and-so. Trade however you find edge and however you make money. That's the goal. The goal is to make money, and my more recent, I guess, goal, to have fun, to have more fun doing it. Because it's a huge part of my life. And I'm a little sick of it just being all business all the time. I still want to grow. I still want to push hard, but no reason you can't, you know, lighten up a little bit while you're doing it. Okay, we're testing that 20 EMA on the 2-minute. Again, that's not enough for a trade for me, but it's worth watching here. I need a breakout here. We're getting a lot of dojis, a lot of failed little breakouts within the range. All right, Trump speaking in about 7.5 minutes. We'll see what kind of volatility that brings. In the 5 minutes leading up, a lot of times you see kind of calm before the storm, so to speak. It's not uncommon to see that if it's been priced in already, which is not always the case, but a lot of up in the air kind of gambling for the next, 15 minutes or so, straddling the beginning of the speech. Come on, market, do something here. All right, for those of you guys who are new, this is how we sit. Hold up. There we go. This is how we sit. One trade so far, up 880. One trade so far. By the way, obviously the sim. I know some of you guys don't like to use the sim as the leader. I actually prefer it, especially with the capture issues I've had. The sim is not counted in that at all, obviously. So up 880 on one trade so far today. Kind of light, but that's fine. It's a good day. Again, I don't want to... I think in trading world, a lot of people are like, if it's not a $10,000 day, it's a shit day. I try to stay not totally out of touch. Obviously, 880 is a wonderful morning. That's crazy. But we also, we want to post big numbers. So we can't do that, though, if the market doesn't give us anything. When this range breaks out here, man, really what I'm looking at is this wick, this here, and this here. Once we make a determination which direction we're going, honestly, as far as trading is concerned, I'd prefer if we broke downside. Because you start breaking upside, now you're really pushing a bull trend. Maybe outside of the average true range of, like, at least the time allotted thus far. But a break downside would be pretty attractive if we can get some kind of follow through and a good confirmation setup. Yeah, 5 minutes out from Trump. We're gonna see some probably indecisive nature here in the market. Do you guys trade this time? Like, are you guys taking trades the next 15 minutes, or are you holding off? I'm not huge on, like, I think some people go a little crazy where they're like, I don't trade at all on FOMC day. I guess, if you have data that says you shouldn't, then don't. I think a lot of people, they don't have data. They just don't trade FOMC because some people say don't trade FOMC. But if you make money on FOMC day, at least like in the morning, then trade FOMC day. But, you know, for me, we're really down to the wire here. 15 minutes out from Trump. I'm sorry, 5 minutes out from Trump. But for the next 15 minutes, you know, 5 minutes heading in, 10 minutes after he starts, it's gonna be some chop. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can get a decisive move heading into the Trump coming out. It would not surprise me, by the way, if we see a little bit of an upside move, and then if Trump comes out, starts talking, and we get a risk-off mentality. I'm not trading off of that. I'm just saying that would not surprise me. That's pretty common to see. There we go. Here, let's extend this trend line, see if we can get a little better context. Actually, let's do it over here. Two and a half minutes out from Trump. Let's see what we get, man. Oh, by the way, I am running a pre-sale. This has not launched to the public yet. This is the first time, starting next Friday. Next Friday this begins, but pre-sale, if you want to save money, you can get locked in for life. I will be streaming extra to the tomb every single day. This will not happen again. Okay, 50% off until Sunday. The stream's over there. Once I stop on YouTube, it'll be live over there the whole time, but once I stop on YouTube, I'll keep going over there until at least noon Central. I might even push it a little bit longer to maybe 12:30 Central. So that'll be the full ad-free, uninterrupted stream over in the tomb, and that is a pre-sale because I have not even mentioned that at all to anybody until right now. So if you want to join that up, save 50% on your subscription for life. Won't happen again. So hope to see you guys in. Yep, I took one trade. We're up 880 so far across the board. Ideally, I'd have taken more by now, but the market, man. A lot of indecisive no man's land here, and we got Trump coming out in 60 seconds. We'll see if he's on time. I'll just judge it based on the volatility. By the way, if you guys want to drop, updates on what he's saying in the chat, I think everyone would appreciate that. No, Jeff, 50% off is through. It's a pre-sale. Ends this Sunday. The streams in the tomb start next Friday. The pre-sale is right now until this Sunday. 50% off, and then the price will slowly go up until we go into full price starting on Friday when it begins. All right, here we are coming up for a test of that trend line. Big green bar. I know a lot of people want to short that trend line, but on that big green bar heading into Trump, 15 seconds out, I gotta hold off, man. Get those 3 consecutive bull bars. This one closing near the high, above that previous wick. We're getting that Trump pump heading in. But again, a risk-off mentality after he starts talking would not surprise me at all. Oh, by the way, on the Tomb, if you want 50% off, make sure you use code BIG. That's my code across the board. Don't forget to use the code, otherwise you'll pay full price, which I don't want you guys to do. Pre-sale for a reason. 50% off, code BIG. Here. Link is in the chat. All right, Trump should be coming out. I'm going to pull up a news feed here and see if we can get some updates. Once we get a little bit into the speech, it's a little bit easier to manage taking some trades, because the market, the initial shock kind of wears off. Usually the big statements are made early, but this first 10 minutes can be tough, especially if he's late. We are testing that trend line. Take a look, man. This is the full day range, by the way. Since the open, this big range has been forming. This has been so common in the last 4 or 5 trading days, except today's range is a little tighter, which makes trend trading a little tougher, and it makes range scalping a little bit lower probability. Managed to get 1 trade so far. All right, we're respecting that trend line, but a lot of this movement's gonna be based on news. Are you guys in positions right now? I'm actually really curious if anyone's trading this. Drop it in the chat. Where do you sit right now? Flat. Yeah, I'm flat too, man. Flat 2. Let this initial, I want to get some headlines coming through. And then we can maybe start trading again once those headlines kind of get out of the way. Once everybody's a little less on edge about it. People stop paying attention. Oh, Curtis, you got a swing going, huh? Nice price there. Good work, guys. Sounds like everyone's doing pretty well today. Which is important, by the way. If you're doing well today, today's definitely has not been the easiest trading day, at least so far. You know, we're barely into it, but I wouldn't say the day's been easy, so if you're doing well today, good work. You got this big wide range, it makes it look easy, but when you have, the range is not as wide as it's been in the past, but it's wider than a true scalping range, so it can make it tough. You're kind of in the in-between zone. All right, a little bit of an intraday high there at about 19,810. You see all those bull bars creeping up into the news? We're heading into news and they're shrinking. Right, so that's not that's not a continuation trade for me, especially when you see this wick up top. Now this is a little bit hindsight speaking. You see this wick, that's not an entry at all for continuation for me, especially heading into news, because again, And oftentimes get that risk-off mentality once they actually start talking. Yeah, Gizmo, you got to make sure you're watching that trend. Try to get here. The way that I like to look at things, daily chart for context. Okay? 2 minute for trading, 5 minute for what everyone else is seeing as far as intraday context, because the 5 minute is so popular. But I prefer the 2 minute for trading. It just gives you more trades, usually. Now's that kind of moment where you start wondering, okay, are we going to keep pushing into intraday highs and rejecting off that trend line? Or are we going to pull back through the 20 and test this trend line down here? You know, if we extend that out. And just draw it, you know, to the best of your eye. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everyone's going to draw it slightly differently. So draw it. Try to kind of stay dumb when you're drawing trend lines. Just draw it the way that you think most people would draw it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's always a range, right? Little pop out of Boeing. Trump awarding them a fighter jet contract worth billions. Only popped a couple points, but it's Boeing. Really not many headlines as far as the market is concerned. I want to get these first few headlines from Trump speaking out of the way. Yep, 15-minute opening range is great to look at. 1 minute chart, nothing wrong with it at all. I like the 1 minute. I like the 5 minute. But for futures, I prefer the 2 minute. For scalping stocks, like small cap momentums pre-market, I look at the same chart that you guys are seeing here right now, except I swap out the 2 minute for the 1 minute. But 2 minute, I prefer on futures. Gives you a little bit more time for decision making. Still offers a good amount of trades, just not too many. Is Trump out? I'm not watching. Is he out yet or is he late? We're not really getting any headlines here. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I don't think this is really a broadcast kind of talk. Dominic, what's up? Good morning. So it's like, where do you sit? You know, what do you do? Let it come to you. Be patient until you're not. When the market gives you 10 trades in an hour, take them. If they're high probability and you think you have edge, or you know you have edge in these trades long term. If the market gives you 0 in 3 hours, you got to be cool with that. This is the job. Want to make the big bucks, you got to sit and wait. Hanging out with you guys makes it more fun. All right, let's see if we end up breaking down through that recent wick. But again, all these dojis. Market's waiting for a headline. Yeah, John, it's tough. It does get easier with time. You get a little bit less excitable. It gets easier with time. No, I'm not done. Listen, 100K a month, not done. I explained earlier in the stream, but that's not, no. The intention is not going anywhere with that. All right, let's see if we break downside through this recent wick, and then we got the 20, and then we got a couple, a couple more wick lows. A breakdown through 7 through this wick. Again, that changes things a lot, but an upside break here doesn't change things all that much. It just remains within the channel. Here's the test of that recent wick. Let's see what we get. But again, you get in a trade now. All of a sudden, you get a headline hitting all the news feeds. That newswire hit can kill you. You can just get wicked out, especially if you have like a 10 or 20 point stop. Man, you can get 50 points of volatility in 10 seconds. And that can chop you out. And getting chopped up is not fun. It's not fun at all. It's a lot more bearable, I think, to just be wrong a few times in a row with wide enough stops than it is to get chopped out 10 times in a row. Getting chopped out is a different level of frustration, whereas just being wrong is like, all right, fine, I was wrong this time and it happened 3 times in a row, right? That's going to happen. Statistical anomalies, right? But getting chopped up is a different kind of frustration. I think that's where tilt mostly comes from. You start trading on tilt because you're getting chopped. You know, being wrong with a longer duration trade is still frustrating, don't get me wrong, but it's not, at least to me, it's not as like, just pisses you off, you know, like the way that getting chopped up does. Okay, here we go, testing the low of this trend, this channel, I mean. Not getting too many headlines, at least thus far, on my feed. Are we speaking yet? Do you guys know? Do you guys see anything? So this is where we sit currently, just one trade in, keeping it small, first stream, up 880 so far. That's how we sit for anyone new. One trade in so far. If you guys want to trade some Apex accounts, by the way, today, ending tonight at midnight, 80% off single day pass, use code BIG. Testing this trend line here, let's see if we can get a downside break. I really would prefer to see a downside break. That opens up some more trade opportunity, at least in my head, than an upside break would. You have a couple of wicks downside to deal with, but that's okay. All right, Curtis, thanks for the update. Trump coming up to the podium now. Expect some headlines relatively soon. There's the test. Now, downside break through the test for me is not quite enough. Again, I'm looking for tests of those wicks a little bit lower. Here's that retest of the trend line after the break. We've seen that 3 times now today. Really, really common. This retest, oftentimes, you get a break downside through a really obvious trend line. Like you see here, everyone has that drawn probably, at least mentally. You get a break downside through, you oftentimes get that retest. On an eval, that's good for a small size scalp for me back short. But in PA accounts, it's in my opinion, not high enough probability. All right, we're getting comments out of the Fed's Williams, the highlighted one. The U.S. Central Bank is not in a hurry to make the next monetary policy decision. It has become harder to forecast the outlook right now. Understandable. I use both NinjaTrader and Thinkorswim for my charts. I use Thinkorswim because I have used it for years and I like their charts a lot. But I use NinjaTrader as obviously my 1-2 minute to trade off of, but I prefer Thinkorswim. It's just easier for me to set it all up, get it looking the way that I want. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, that's why. Alright, should be getting some Trump volatility here soon when we start getting some headlines. being broadcast anywhere? It is. This is not a big broadcast event, but I see a live or two on YouTube. Department of Defense, if you guys want to watch. Well, don't click away from here. Open another tab, damn it. Department of Defense is live on YouTube with Trump. We'll have headlines dropping in the chat anyway. All right, let's see if this trend line retest fails. Comments out of the Fed Williams right now, but the Trump headlines are going to cause more volatility, so I'm not too worried about what Williams is saying. We end up getting a big upside push. We could just see a reforming of this downside of this trend line, this big channel here, this big range. We've seen that once already now today, but with each reformation, you end up with less touch points, right? I like to see at least 3 touch points for a trend line to really hold water, in my opinion. Right now, we only have 2.5. This one is sloppy. I wouldn't count this one. Hey, Chris, appreciate it, brother. Yeah, live every morning. This will be happening, starting at 8:15 a.m. Central, going for 2+ hours at least. Kind of getting stuck around this retest. I think the first headline coming out of the Trump talk is gonna probably make a decision here. Again, what I really want to see here as far as trades are concerned, I really want to see a test of these 2 wicks. A big bear trend. Because, like, listen, if you get a test of these 2 wicks, all of a sudden you have room for a downside test for a 40-point target. Gotta make sure you have room. That's something a lot of people overlook. Before the next zone where you expect a lot of enemies, like if you're short, your enemies are buyers, right? If you expect a lot of buyers down in this region, it's a totally different trade to get short at 30 with a 40-point take profit, right? Now you're betting on a breakout, which I will do, right? But if I'm expecting just a test or betting on a test, let's say, you can expect whatever and be wrong. But if you're betting on a test, you want to make sure you have at least, I'd say, 45, 50 points after an entry before you get that downside test. So you got to be thinking ahead in that case. Yes, so the live will be on YouTube. Now, Central Time, I'm talking. It's all Central Time from about 8:15 to 10:30. At 10:30, starting next Friday, I'll be live for the Tomb up until 12 or 12:30. Okay? That live stream at the Tomb will start next Friday, but the sale is right now. This is a pre-sale just launching today, 50% off the Tomb for life. Get grandfathered in. That sale is a pre-sale good through Sunday. The streams start next Friday for the Tomb. That's the reason it's discounted, because you're getting in early. I really want to see a downside continuation, but we need a headline. Let's go. Let's get that first headline out of the way. That's going to hit some volatility, and I want to see which direction that starts pushing. By the way, for you guys looking at that Tomb deal, it's in the chat. You can click the link there. No headlines out of Trump so far. Just nothing. Tariff mention, anything to get this volatility out of the way. I want to get nerves settled before the market can decide on a direction and I can actually take a decent entry. One trade so far on the day, up 880. Now you see here on the 2-minute, guys, that retest would be a retest of not only the really obvious trend line, but also the 20 EMA. In an eval or something, that would be good for a short scalp for me on a retest of that. In PA accounts, again, probability is a little low for my taste. Yeah, Trump's still not speaking, huh? I'll start getting headlines on the newswire. I'll update you guys as they come in. And I'll tell you what, while we're waiting on that, I will be back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, don't leave. All right, baby, we're back. We are back, and we got sideways for a couple minutes, huh? No headlines out of Trump yet. Yeah, I think Trump's popping in the Robinhood account before he pops out. What do you think? We gotta see some kind of break here. Some kind of break. This is no man's land. Oh, it's hot. This is no man's land. Again, what I really want to see is like here. I want to see a test of this wick, a break, and a test of this wick. That would be a beautiful setup. I mean, really, look at the 5 minute. Then you have, on a break of this, let's say maybe you get an entry 55-ish. You have, 50 points, really, until you're talking about a downside test with a 40-point take profit for me. Beautiful. See if the market gives us that. We're one trade in today, up 880 so far, keeping it kind of light. Market really, I think, you're getting these dojis, right? Market's waiting for that first headline. This is where everybody kind of sits on their hands. I mean, not a ton of human traders making a decision right before that first headline hits. That first headline could go either way. I mean, it's going to depend on how the algos, decipher the headline. You gotta wait for, I'm not against trading while he's speaking, while Trump is speaking, but not before those first few headlines hit, or not before a big expected announcement. But today, I think those first few headlines are really the thing to be concerned with. Let the market set its trend based on those first few big statements, and then you can look for good entries. Right now, everyone's just kind of waiting. This has me wondering if this pump off the open, see this big dump off here, if this pump off the open, if Trump comes out and those first few headlines don't cause a reversion here, and you see continuation, break through this wick, then, I mean, in all honesty, then I'm looking for a test for that bottom wick. Whether we break or not, it won't matter. Because I'll have made my money and gotten out by that test. Maybe leave on one little runner if you're trading multiple micros or even multiple minis, but in a prop account, I think multiple minis is almost always too big unless you have a big padding. Which, I'm not really a big fan of having a ton of padding in a prop account because that is your money. You might as well at that point almost just take a payout and trade a personal account. Take some risk off. Well, this is how we're sitting so far for anyone just joining. Trading small. Up 880, just one trade so far today. Kind of a light day as far as trading, as far as trades are concerned for me so far here. But I'm not done. Not done trading at all. Gonna trade probably most of the day here. We need that first headline out of Trump. That first headline, well, really the first 2 or 3 headlines usually kind of hit pretty close to each other. Volatility hits, and then you get some kind of determination out of the market. That's when it's time to start trading again. Testing that 20 EMA here on the 2 minute. And the 5 minute for that matter. Yep, for those of you guys just joining here, daily occurrence, live every morning starting at 8:15 Central. That's 15 minutes before the market opens. and we'll go for about 2 hours and 15 minutes on the average day. In this push up through the 20. If we see a retest of that trend line, that's something to consider, guys. Again, in like an eval, things, it's a little more nuanced, right? In an evaluation, if we saw kind of a weak upside move with some weak bull bars, and you test here on weak bull bars, in an eval where I'm a little bit more aggressive, I'll take a short scalp. But if we see a big pop through there, consecutive bull bars closing near their highs through the trend line, we've now cleared that. We've cleared this wick over here. If you have room, 20 to 40 points of room after an entry until you get a retest of that wick high, then all of a sudden we're talking about a PA account trade. Yep, took one trade live so far here today. Kind of light. It's usually more than that, but today's been a kind of a bizarre day. Trump speaking right now, just starting. Let's see if we get some headlines. Gotta see a breakout here. Gotta see a breakout here. Something to tell me, hey, this is now 55 to 60 rather than 49.51. Trade that chop, you get chopped up. Again, Nasdaq, you know, it's going to retest prices that you see on bars throughout the entire day 80 to 90% of the time. That probability goes down as you get later in the day, obviously with less time left. But there's a lot of opportunity to get chopped up, but also a lot of opportunity to catch little trends. But you have to expect that you're probably 80% of the time plus going to see, at least on an entry in the first half of the day, that same price again later in the day, which helps you make decisions. Now again, with prop, you can't just buy or sell on any given bar and say, well, I'll probably be in the green at some point, because you have that drawdown to worry about. You know, even in personal accounts, if you catch the off trend day, you're going to get blown out. So you have to have some kind of risk management, right? But, you know, this is different than trading stocks in a way for that reason. You have to trade them a little differently, especially momentum stocks. Well, guys, one trade so far today, up 880. Listen, hey, if you need some Apex accounts, this ends at midnight tonight. I don't know what they're going back to. 80% off single day pass. Use code BIG. I hope to see you guys Monday morning, 8:15 a.m. Central Time. I'll be here every day. All right, guys, have a good weekend. I'll see you soon.